Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Illustrated Media Podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Traina. Thank you for listening. Great show this week. Conversation with Scott Van Pelt, who is always excellent. We'll get into Scott doing post-game for the NBA Finals, his interview with Draymond Green, where it got a little awkward, get into the LIV Golf situation, why there needs to be more sing-alongs at sporting events, bad beats, a lot of topics covered with SVP. All right, joining me now, SI Media Podcast regular, I think I can call him, the host of the very popular SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt. Scott Van Pelt. Scott, how are you?
Thrilled to be back, Jimmy.
I have to say, I'm very, very lucky that I do have a very nice group of regulars who are always nice enough to come on and agree to come on usually. And I will say, among those regulars, the two people who despise getting asked the most are you and Joe Buck.
Okay. Well, I'm in good company.
I mean, you guys always do it. You're always great to me. I cringe when I have to send the text. And you guys, in your most polite way, respond with like, oh, fuck, why are you asking me this? But you do it. So I appreciate it.
I never say that.
You don't say it. You find
and
the
I'm
polite
never
way.
lying. When I say to you, we have some school thing.
I believe you.
I have a school thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, if I wanted to invent it, I would just say I have agita and I can't, it's terminal afternoon agita. Can't join you. And I'd never do it. Right. But I don't. No, I'm not lying.
You always do it. You always do it. Yeah. And I appreciate it.
We find the time.
It's always good to talk to you too. And I wanted to get you on during the NBA Finals because you come on after the NBA Finals. And I mean, you're sort of you're the post-game show. And that's got to be a nice little adrenaline rush for you. And, it would have been nice to get a seventh game out of that series. But
actually, it wasn't. It was better to get it in 6 because it meant we had Father's Day off. So we were openly rooting for Golden State for life purposes, nothing against Boston, but thrilled to have a Sunday night where we didn't. I was actually down at the beach, and so being able to stay through the night and just have a Father's Day and hang out, that was great.
That's nice.
It was, and you're the adrenaline rush is the correct way to frame it, because like you, me, everyone consuming this, we all love Inside the NBA. Okay. So I get that when that show ends, that it's a bummer for everybody because it's a blast. It's just the rarest of things, the combination of personalities and truly not giving a shit. That Charles and that whole group has, with Ernie, just the maestro making it all work. When it ends, I'm sad. Our show isn't that. Obviously, we can't try to be that. But I think what we've created, particularly in a Game 6 type of deal, is here comes Steve Kerr, here comes Jordan Poole, and here comes Stephen Curry, who, by the way, Jimmy, he's done the on-court interview. He owes us nothing. Right. No star has been kinder to our show than Steph. And I'm always truly grateful for that, because he could just say, no, I'm good. I talked to Lisa Salters. I'm set. He always comes on with us. And the thing that when I'm done doing this and I really reflect on the coolest part of this gig, having the opportunity to talk to the coach or the athlete still literally in the arena, sweat and champagne mixed on their bodies, still haven't taken the jersey off, to ask Steph Curry, what are they going to say now? What are you going to say now? That's a fun spot to be, because you get the first chance they've had to kind of think about it and be honest about what, our job is all some version of, you're not supposed to ask, how does it feel? But that's really all you want to know. You're not supposed to ask, what does it mean? But you really want to know, what does it mean? So you're just trying to come up with a clever way to say this one. It seemed like there was a lot in it, man. What was all that hit you? I love those spots. And I'm really, really grateful that that's what we get to do.
It's weird because he's obviously this mega huge superstar, but I feel like Steph actually doesn't get enough credit for being such a good guy. I mean, that is a guy where if you can't root for that guy, I mean, obviously, if you're a Celtics fan, I get it. But like, if you're a sports fan who can't root for Steph Curry, there's something wrong with you. I mean, that is as likable as a player in all of sports, I think.
I totally agree. And Steve and I have said as much on our podcast. Like, people like him, Giannis, I don't know what it is. The NBA has its own subset of fans that seem to root against players and teams more than they root for players and teams, which I find really strange. And if you're anti-Steph, well, what do you like?
Right.
What is it you, what do you covet? What's your sweet tooth for if it's not for that?
Right.
And just through the years, I got to tell you that nobody's been just. Steve Kerr always tells me he's a better human. He's one of the best players we've ever seen. He's a better human. And years ago, Jimmy, I did a thing on my daughter's birthday, and we got to the end of an interview with him, and I was trying to let him go,
right?
And he's like, no, hold on, I wanted to say that thing you did about your daughter, and it was one big thing about my daughter, and
I remember that,
and he stopped to talk to me about that. The fact that he consumed it, it's always nice to know that something you do that's personal about life finds its way to whoever. Yeah. But the fact that it resonated with him, and that in this moment, after they had just beaten Houston and he was incredible, he wanted to talk about that. And the other night after the Game 4 performance, he's like, hey man, that US Open, because we wanted to talk about golf, because the last time he was on, I said, hey, next week, if you're bored during the day, we got the PGA on. He's like, I'll be watching. So he's trying to give me a pop for the US Open. I'm like, Steph, that's a different network, bro. I'm going to be watching it with you, But he's thinking in ways that I don't think many superstars in that moment think. And it's rare, and I appreciate that.
It's interesting to me to hear you say that it still surprises you when someone's consuming your content, because one, you're one of the most popular and likable sports media personalities, and the real estate you have on ESPN at 11 o'clock, give or take an hour, depending on what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's because I feel that way, but I'm, nobody. To hear you say it is interesting to me. So,
but I think that's I guess really what it is, Jimmy, is how does anyone consume anything now? Right. Are they sitting there watching it, or is it something that gets tweeted out? And I've said this a million times about James Corden, that I don't know how often I've been sitting in front of my television when his show came on and watched his show, but I've seen him sing in the car with a lot of people. And so the way things get consumed now, maybe it was on Twitter and Stanford Steve tweeted it out or something. I mean, right. The thing I did about my dog, Otis, in a day, there were however many million people had seen that. You just don't know how what you do. It's like the LeBron in the dust. It gets thrown up, and it gets wherever it gets blown, and wherever it lands, it lands. You just don't really know how and when people are actually kind of actively consuming anything. So I guess that's why anymore the show's important, but those things that find people in other spaces are equally as important, I guess.
On a much smaller level, and this is going to make me sound like the biggest buffoon ever, but Tom Brady liked a tweet I had sent to him last week. So that gave me like a little extra pep in my step that day.
There you go.
I was all feeling it.
Well, but it's fun to know, right? Like, hey, that's cool. That guy saw that thing. I mean, look, you say I have this real estate. I get it. I've done this a long time, but you still, I still mention Steph talking about my daughter, just because in that moment, it was mind boggling to me that this guy that had just scored 23 in the fourth to dispatch with Houston wanted to mention this thing I did about my daughter. Like, I don't care how long I do this, I'll never outgrow an appreciation for what we did being appreciated. So Tom Brady liked your tweet. I mean, I'm Jimmy fucking Traina. Now what?
Exactly. I had that for like 10 minutes, and then I realized
Put that on a shirt. Put that on a shirt.
Yeah, it's Twitter. And I mean, we got to move on. It's not real life. I got to ask, I want to get into Draymond to piggyback off Steph, because you had an interesting interview with him. But since you brought it up, we're going to go right off the highway here and since you mentioned it, do you have a all-time favorite James Corden Carpool Karaoke?
I go back to the original. I think it was the original with George Michael. just because.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know where people are on George Michael, God rest his soul, but like watch that dude sing at Wembley when he did at the Queen tribute. Watch him sing "Somebody to Love." That guy could go, man. I mean, I think that launched it because James Corden can really sing, and the moments. There are all these little moments where you see the person who he's with realize. I think it was like Adele. You see Adele look at him like, oh, this guy can sing.
Right.
I just think that, I mean, me and you are getting tweets like he's singing with Adele, and it was looking at him like, oh my God, this guy can sing. Yeah. I think that he's that little lane of his was just such a brilliant window into having the balls to sing next to Adele in a car.
Right.
Because you got
he was going toe to toe. Yeah.
You got to think you can do it. You know, you want to try to hit the high notes, and I don't know. There's been so many of those that were funny. But I go back to George Michael and I think that was the first one he did, and then that.
So that was, for anyone who doesn't know, the George Michael one he did for, I think it was like a benefit charity thing they did in England. It wasn't part of his CBS Late Show. No, but the first one he did here was with Mariah Carey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But then, but the George Michael thing, that's like the snowflake at the top of the hill that becomes the avalanche, right? That was the birth of it.
That was the inspiration,
as I understand it. But, and we had him on during the pandemic, and I said, I know this is a terrible question. It's impossible, but is there one, I mean, it was Paul McCartney, like on Abbey Road, I think it was. And it's like, how do you make that make sense if you're him? You know what I mean? You're in a car with the Beatle.
Right.
Driving down that road singing the songs. Yeah,
it's funny because, McCartney just had his 80th birthday over the weekend, and I actually went and rewatched that Carpool Karaoke, and at one point they're singing "Let It Be," and James Corden tears up, and it makes him think of his grandfather. James Corden gets a lot of shit online, like a lot of people do, but like I don't like that's one I don't understand. Like, you don't have to think he's funny, you don't have to like his show, but it is weird that he gets so much shit. Like, it's just like a nice guy doing a talk show. Like, what are we hitting on that for? Like,
well, but that's
whatever.
That's just the way the world works. I mean, we talked about this, and when it comes to social media and how people behave on it, it's typically not how people actually behave. So I think you just kind of just keep it moving,
Right. So back to the NBA Warriors post games. You had Draymond on.
1 second. We have a very important question. Yeah, go ahead, buddy. Is that what you want? Let it rip. Okay.
What's the question?
My little man's got like a bag of mini Oreos, and I mean, he might have had 6 already, but I just gave him the nod. Like, you're good. I'm just
Dad's
trying to
doing a podcast. You could have as many Oreos as you want today.
That's what I'm for my guy Jimmy here. I'm just trying to keep this moving. Draymond, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So you had an interesting interview with Draymond after one of the NBA Finals games where, Draymond is one of these athletes who's all about new media. You mentioned new media. You mentioned he's part of the new media, and then he got offended, which I found amusing.
I didn't get that. He's the one that said it. Isn't he the one that said he's new media? I was just trying to give him credit for saying, look, you now have control of your narrative, and you can go do your podcast now. So
take me through, though, if you don't mind. Pull the curtain back for people listening. When you're doing that live and you say new media, and he gives it back. He didn't give it. I don't want to over dramatize it, but he pushed back a little on that. What's going through your head in that moment? Like, I got to correct this. I don't want to get into it with him. What's going on here?
I didn't think it was worth, it didn't. I mean, I said, because it was something about how Stephen A's new media too. That was the comment that I think was said. And all I was trying to say is, as he and I were having this conversation about the noise and the chatter, is that, well, now, you have the autonomy. You're in charge of your message to go do your thing. And something came up about Stephen A. I said, well, he's new media too, right? Like, because Draymond said, and I guess what Draymond actually said was that sometimes he's new media. I don't give a shit who's what. Because here's the thing, Jimmy, we're years and years and years and years ago when Deadspin, the first one with Will Leach came out.
Yeah.
I realized it seemed very obvious to me that we're all in the pool together here. And there was, I think, people in the more traditional lanes initially just looked, it was the tired joke about people in their parents' basement.
Right.
Well, no, actually, this is a voice that has an audience, and it carries weight. Now, they do whatever they want, and you can argue about whether or not they should be doing things they do and where are the lines. Well, they kind of aren't any, but it seemed clear to me, and I said as much, there's no us and them, there's just us. And I think now, as it relates to media, there's no new and old, because people that are in old media are doing the new media, and people that are in new media are cutting through in ways that people in old media didn't think they ever would, maybe many years ago, right? So I guess all I'm saying is, whatever Stephen A is, he exists in both lanes, and Draymond clearly his content cuts through in his podcast or with me. I wasn't hurt by it. Like, I didn't take it to be that he was mad at me. I guess he was just sort of correcting the semantics, and it didn't trouble me. I mean, whatever. I don't. It doesn't. However, your Draymond frames what Stephen A. Smith is, or what he is, or what any of us are, it doesn't feel important. I think it's important that he has that place where he wants to do his thing. And I think people are interested in hearing the guy that was just out there, not long after he's left, saying what he has to say.
Yeah, like I love this trend of athletes having their own podcasts and doing their own thing. I'm sure. Two guys at ESPN who I'm huge fans of, and I've mentioned this on Twitter a million times in my comment. Like, I'm huge fans of JJ Redick, Richard Jefferson. I think the way they do things is unique, and this business, it's all about being unique and standing out. I think they fit that. But Draymond wants to get hung up on new media, all he's doing there really is saying, like, okay, athletes are going to have their own voice and we're not going to criticize each other. That's really what he's saying, because the media, the traditional media, we criticize, and it doesn't always have to be negative. I mean, we're allowed to say someone had a poor game. It seems like Draymond doesn't even want that to be said. You could come up with the cute name new media, but all it means is we're going to just, protect each other, basically.
But that's odd, because NBA Twitter is nonstop. I mean, he and John Morant have been, I've been going at it ever since. And Clay sat right up there on the dais after they won and called Jaren Jackson a bum because he had tweeted about him earlier. And I mean, the NBA Twitter machine never stops. So that's new media also. And so these storylines that almost have a WWE feel to them, they perpetuate. They're the gas in the engine that goes and goes. But I mean, I zero issue with anything Draymond said. I don't think he had it. I don't know what I said that was wrong, but it didn't. I wasn't worried about it. I go do your podcast, man.
Here's the other thing I would say to Draymond. Like, you can sit there and new media, but your new media needs the old media, because you clearly seem to thrive on what everyone says about you. Like, he's up there, he's arguing with Chris Russo, he's arguing with John Morant, he's arguing with whoever it is, with you saying new media. I mean, he clearly thrives off of it. So it's not, I don't think he wants the old media go away. I think by you saying WWE, I think he's trying to set up new media versus old media, but he wants old media there so he can have that battle. Well,
I mean, we're a means to an end, if nothing else. I mean, because we're still, and this could veer into the conversation of, again, it's part and parcel of what I was talking about with how people consume what they consume. Where do you find it? Content's content wherever it lives. And, there's still a space for the old media or whatever the hell I'm doing. And, and I can also dip my toe in the other thing as well. But I'm couldn't be more pro Draymond being in charge of his voice, using it to amplify things he finds interesting, have interesting conversations in ways that he could have them that I could not as a peer of guys in the league. And the thing I genuinely love about Draymond is that I truly think it's like a Charles Barkley. I think he's Draymond at all times. I think he doesn't have to edit himself and doesn't. I think he's the version of himself he always wants to be. And good for him, because not many of us can say that. We have to kind of put on a different outfit for a different room or a different setting, and we have to be a more sanitized version of ourselves. I think Draymond's just like, I'm going to be me, and if you don't like it, even better, because I'll be me louder. So good for him and all the things he's doing.
I'm going to be me, and I want the attention. is also a big part.
Well, look, I mean, yeah, you don't put yourself out there if you don't want the attention, and you're not afraid about what type of attention you get. Some people only want attention.
Right. That's the key.
If it's adulation, if they're there to kiss your ass, if somebody's there to say, hey, no, this is nonsense or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't, I don't think it troubles him, which is, and that's rare too, because it pisses a lot of people off if you get attention that isn't sort of flowery.
I said this on the podcast. It was either last week or 2 weeks ago. My buddy Salicata, who does a radio show on WFAN, comes on every week and does a segment with me at the end of this podcast. And Durant responded to one of his tweets, and Durant said he thinks sports talk radio is a cesspool. So Sal, being on sports talk radio, didn't really appreciate the comment. Whereas I told Sal, I would do anything for Kevin Durant to tweet me and say, Jimmy's segment sucks, his podcast. Kevin, please send it out there. I'm ready. Let's go. Give me the attention.
But it means to an end, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I think, listen, Durant's fascinating too, because as we know, I mean, he mixes it up. And I said somewhere, I think I said with Russillo, that the thing I appreciate about Durant is that I don't think he doesn't give a fuck.
No way.
But then people are like, well, yes, he does. He has burner accounts. If he didn't, he wouldn't do this. And I'm like, no. He doesn't care that that he does that. He's there to say, listen, because really what you're saying is, I'm Kevin Durant. I'm one of the best players in the world, and you're a bum. Okay. And so if you want to say that's fine. I'm the guy out here that you're paying to watch. And he's not saying that, but he could if he wanted to.
Right.
And I think that they're not being worried about how your consumption of content is taken, and not being worried about the content you're creating with your tweets. That to me isn't giving a bleep either. And so maybe we can argue those semantics, but all these things are part of what makes the NBA, I think, unique as it comes to sports in terms of what the level of engagement on a daily basis. And it just goes on all summer long. And then the season starts, and then there's somebody tweets out eyeballs, and then it's on,
Yeah. I want to transition to golf, because you're a big player in the golf world, but you mentioned the summer and getting through the summer. I was going to ask you this later on, but we'll do it now quickly. As you know, there's no bigger fan of bad beats than me. Unfortunately, we don't have our NFL. We don't have our college football right now. Now the NBA just ended. What do you do anything? What do you do for a gambling fix between now and the first NFL preseason game, or college football, or something like that? Because this is now, you go two ways with it. This is now the time to take a break, or you dip it in things you shouldn't be dipping in. What does Scott Van Pelt do?
I mean, I'll just say that long ago, when I was a young man that had no funds and no fear, I was heavily invested in the Oakland A's and the World Series. They played the Reds. Had them for the series and had them every game. Jimmy, the Oakland A's didn't win a game against Cincinnati, and at the end of that World Series, I lost money that I did not have. So when it comes to baseball and dabbling in that, I just leave it alone. Now,
we have very, very similar experiences and philosophies on that. Baseball's a problem for me, and I have to stay. And here's the sick thing. I love betting baseball. I love it, but I can't do it. I just can't do it on the day-to-day basis. When the NFL season starts and baseball gets into the postseason, then I'll dabble in it. But regular season baseball, I've had to give that up. It's a problem.
Well, yeah, you need to give it up because, unless you're prepared to invest the time to really study, and do you really want to be waking up on July the 11th and looking at the lines and seeing like where's some value of this? No, just give yourself a little time off from that day-to-day grind. But if you're asking me, what am I doing in that space personally versus what are we doing in terms of content? Because horrible. Personally,
I want personally.
Leave it alone. Just
take a break. Take a break.
Just tap out.
Yeah,
tap out and not. There's no need. It's not. I don't have the energy for it mentally, and I'm happy because we get to tap out at the end of the month, and we take a pretty long break. And it's fun to not have to think about this every day, to not be asking myself, what are the stories I'm interested? What are the things that happen that are funny? entertaining, blah, blah, blah. It's nice to just let your mind be mush for a month and a half.
I have enough anxiety as it is. And then I realized the anxiety I was giving myself deciding between minus 190 and minus a run and a half for, like 15 minutes sweating, figuring out which way to go when there's an ace. I said, I don't need this. Take a break for July and August.
We're the same person, man.
Yeah.
Because that you need to find somebody that's plus 140 that you like, because the dog's the only way to go.
Right.
But the favorite's the favorite for a reason. And so you're like, do I lay the 190? No, I'll lay the run and a half. And then somebody, it's like a sack fly in the ninth. And you're just like, I hate my life.
And here's another thing I realized too. In the beginning of the season, if people remember, there were like no runs being scored in baseball.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it changed.
Right. So, and I had money in the account from, the tournament so I said, I'll dabble here. And I was betting unders. And then what happened? Forget how it changed. Forget that. I was betting unders and the game would be, 2-1 in the ninth, 3-2 in the ninth. And then because of this ridiculous rule with the runner on second, these teams would score 4 or 5 runs in extra innings. And then the game's going over. I said, this is why I stopped betting baseball. Take a break and control yourself.
I want to say that we've had several episodes of Bad Beats that involved totals and involved extra innings. Yeah. Every single time that I have a highlight, I said it last night, the Blue Jays and the White Sox got to extra innings. White Sox had this great rally, and then I said, and now it's the 10th, and there's this idiotic runner on second base. Think of how dumb this is.
It's the dumbest thing I've seen in sports in ages.
This is baseball. Think about the romantic kind of attachment we have to baseball and the purity of baseball.
Right. Because we can't handle 2 or 3 games in a season going 16 innings. Really?
Protecting the bullpen. No,
yeah.
Okay, I get it, but in a sense I don't, because I hear James Earl Jones, baseball speech from Field of Dreams, and I at no point does James Earl Jones say, and there's a man on second base in the 10th inning. What? Why is there a man on second base in the 10th inning? Well, because we just put him there. What? I mean, it's just preposterous that this is happening.
Right.
But
and I don't want to open this door, but it started because of COVID. That's what the most ridiculous thing of all is.
Yeah, and there's 7-inning doubleheaders, and everyone's just trying to squeeze it in. And now it's like,
because you can't get COVID in the 8th and 9th inning.
Yeah,
you can get COVID in the 8th and 9th, not in the 2nd or 3rd inning.
We need pitch. We need a clock, a pitch clock. People are bored. Blah blah blah. It's just either play baseball or don't play baseball. Don't do this nonsense with the run. But that's going to go away eventually. So, but that's anyway. I'm not going to bet on it. But as long as we're doing, as long as we have segments, baseball will be providing us tremendous content.
Yeah.
We had a couple of Cardinal bad beats where the other team's total went over because they had Pujols pitch in the 9th inning, and they had who else did they have? They had
not Goldschmidt. It was Molina maybe.
Molina. Yeah. Molina pitched as well, and they threw 50-mile-an-hour pitches that gave up home runs. Can you imagine betting? Now, granted, if you're betting under Pittsburgh team total, I mean, you're in a really niche lane here, but people do it. And
I respect that lane for the record.
Of course. And you just lost because a catcher just threw a 50-mile-an-hour bus ball down the plate and the guy hits a home run and you lose. Bad beat.
The NFL is king.
Yes.
College football is right there. I've said this to you before. The greatest bad beat. You did the greatest segment on it in that Mountain West game when the coach declined a holding penalty in the snow, all that. But in my opinion, in my experiences, there's no bad beats like baseball bad beats. I think by far. That's my opinion.
Somebody recently retweeted this and they said, "Is this the worst bad beat ever?" And it's on the list. The Mets were playing whoever, and the total was 7.5, and it was 3-3, and Ventura hits a grand slam, and the runner turned around and ran back to get him after the first run scored, and so it's not a grand slam.
Right.
I had a buddy from Paramus, New Jersey, that went to Maryland he got me into the life back in the 80s when I bet on the Kansas City Kings in a game, Jimmy Traina. And I lost, and I'm like, here we go.
Here we go.
Tap the vein, and like, who's going late? Anyway, this guy, Paramus, New Jersey's own, Big Al, he had the Mets over for size. This is a guy that was unafraid, okay? He won and then he didn't. And nothing else. What else could happen like that? Only baseball. Could the runner on second turn around and go hug Ventura, and now it's just it's a 4-3 final.
Absolutely. I remember my first bet ever was I was in college and I bet a Tennessee football game. I bet them to cover. I think they were like -7 or minus, and they did, but I don't remember who they played. And it pisses me off that I can't remember who they played. Let me switch to golf because you're a big part of the golf world at ESPN. Obviously, this LIV thing I find fascinating because it's given golf a lot of attention.
Uh-huh.
The ratings for the last couple of tournaments have been way, way up. I don't know if that's a product of the attention. Let me start with this because you're the expert here and I know nothing about it. So just from my standpoint, the purpose of this podcast in terms of media, they don't have a media deal right now, LIV Golf. They're on Facebook and YouTube, I guess. Do you see them getting a U.S. TV deal somewhere along the line? Is that going to happen, do you think?
It has to for this to be a story that actually matters and is more than just the attention of the money that people are getting to go there. In other words, anywhere I go, people are asking me about this. Hey, what do you think of the LIV thing? And so it's clearly interesting, the story. But then I immediately ask the person who asked me, did you watch it?
Right.
No.
I think it was either Austin Karp or maybe Oran, someone from maybe Sportsman's Journal. Their first tournament maxed out on YouTube and Facebook at 93,000 viewers at one time, which on TV would get you canceled in 5 seconds.
But right, so again, this topic of all the money is interesting. Free agency in the NBA is going to start here in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And free agency is interesting because this player, say the Kyrie situation, say they reach this impasse and he decides, you know what, I'm not going to sign my extension, my player option, and he becomes a free agent. Well, where does he go? Well, there's a lot that's interesting about it. But wherever he ends up, Jimmy, he's still playing in the NBA and we're going to watch him. Say he ends up with the Knicks. Doesn't have to leave the city, just change his uniforms. Or say he ends up with LeBron in LA. NBA Twitter, storylines, all those things. But then he plays in the NBA next year. What's happening with this is, okay, Brooks Koepka, he's a name. He's a big name. He's a popular guy. Well, he just left yesterday. Well, that's the story. Wow, he's a free agent. Well, you going to watch him when he plays in Oregon next week? At some point, you've got to be able to watch it and consume it in a way that matters beyond just being, an internet-only thing. So my answer to that is, I don't know who it would be, but it has to happen at some point for this to matter beyond just being something that we talk about here and that gets tweeted about a lot. The product has to be consumed in a way where it's resonating for it to be an actual topic as opposed to just conversation.
So my question to you, I need you to go inside the mind now of the typical average golf fan. Are they going to, let's say they got a TV deal in America. Mm-hmm. Are they still going to watch it? Now, are they going to watch it because of the few big names that are in there like Koepka and Phil and DeChambeau? Or does the fact that it's not really competitive because they've already been paid? What are these players playing for exactly? Would that turn people off who follow golf?
I can't speak for everybody. I mean, it's like I always like anything that we consume is ice cream. Just what flavor do you like? There's some people that love this. Some people might say, "Oh, this is cool. It's 54 holes. It's a shotgun." Most people I talk to are like, "Why is that a selling point to me?" I mean, I keep saying the same thing. At some point, the fact that Charles Schwartzel won a shit ton of money in London, good for him. But what does that have to do with me? And why do I care? I don't. I don't care that they're playing for all this money. That's not interesting to me. The fact that the Canadian Open went head to head that first week, and you had Rory, Justin Thomas, two of the most vocal front-facing stars of the PGA Tour, out there battling and playing this incredible event. It was mayhem in Canada. There was great crowds. It was a fun event. You couldn't have had a better sort of FU from the PGA Tour. And I do believe it rated well. And then the U.S. Open is always going to rate well because it's the U.S. Open. But I think we're used to consuming it in 4 days and 72 holes. And I think there's something that people tend to appreciate about you earn money if you play well and you get nothing if you don't. I think that there's still a charm to that, right? Like if
absolutely
say you root for, the Yankees. I know you do. If Judge goes 0 for 4 and strikes out 4 times, like, hey, he didn't get a game check today. It feels like almost it's just, right? You'd say, well, he didn't earn anything today, so why should he get paid? Well, that's what I think is appealing to people about golf, that there's a line, you miss the cut, sucks, but that's the way it is, man. Play better. The live thing being 54 holes in a shotgun, like I don't the teams, no one even can articulate what that is or knows who the teams are. I don't have any, like, if I'm a Philadelphia Eagle fan, I care about the Eagles. That's my team. There's nobody out there that gives a shit about some live team. They don't even know who they are.
Right.
There's what's been invested. I think fan engagement is largely in how you invest in a person. And if you're a Koepka fan, you're going to find it. If you're a Phil fan, I guess maybe you're going to find it. But if you're just a golf fan, how hard are you going to work to find it? And are you going to find that instead of the PGA Tour? Ultimately, if they keep getting players, what you end up with are 2 marginal tours, and the game of golf is just hurt as a result.
Right.
And I mean, they've gotten some big names. Rosenberg on SI.com last week with Jimmy Dunn did a great conversation that if people are interested in this topic, go read Jimmy Dunn. I thought he had some really spot on comments about it.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I'm looking at it from a media standpoint more so than golf. And I'm not going to ask you to comment on this. I'm going to move on to the next topic, but I'm just going to make this statement. I mean, I just don't see ESPN, NBC, CBS, when they're in bed with the PGA, making any deals with LIV. I think the only company that would do it is Fox, because I think Fox would do anything. And I don't think they really have any sort of standards. And they have FS1, which nobody ever watches, so they could put it on there and do that. But if LIV doesn't get that, I don't see where they go or what they do. And you're just not going to last. I mean, listen, they're going to last because they paid these players and the tournament's going to go on. But in terms of relevance, you're not going to last being on Facebook and YouTube. You're just not. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is.
I did. There's people that follow golf know the No Laying Up. They do a fantastic golf podcast, and I was on with them last week. And the comment was, "What's the sell here? What's the buzz? Where's the juice? What's the juice?" And so, like growing the game. No, you're not growing the game. Look, you took the money. Every single person that did it took the money, and that's what you did. And saying it's team and it's 54, I got 100 million, man. And you in your cube, or you doing your podcast, or you doing your TV show, if 100 million was in front of you, would you have the fortitude to say no? And I think that beyond the money, what is there here? So again, This topic is coming up so many places, and I get that the topic is interesting, but is the actual product interesting to anyone? And I don't hear anyone saying, I can't wait to go watch in Oregon next week. I
mean, to circle back to the beginning of something we mentioned, I mean, it's very WWE, it's very wrestling oriented, like when WCW existed and the NWO came in. So everything, sort of has that feel to it. And you stole all my thunder, because the direction I wanted to go in is about money. And it's like, I don't understand. I mean, I must be just a complete weirdo, because I don't understand why we're still in a place where people can't say, I did this for money. I went on this whole rant with baseball, with their stupid streaming deals with Apple and Peacock. Like, just say we did it. Don't bullshit and lie and insult me and say we're doing it to grow the game. You can't grow the game by being on a streaming service at 11:30 on a Sunday morning when the people who watch you are 70 and older. So you're bullshit. Just say, we did this because we needed to make some extra money. Brooks Koepka has quotes that it's, I think we shouldn't do things for money, and it's not about money, and it's not about money. And then he did this. Just say it. I would have so much more respect for people who just say we did it for the money. I think it would not be stories if people said We did this for the money. I don't understand why this is so taboo.
Because they're trying to grow the game. And that's what they're trying to do. I mean, it's the thing that will be, that could happen is that if at some point the product isn't being consumed beyond the storyline, and then they just decide, look, we're not going to do this anymore. Then what? Well, then I guess you got all your money, and then you're doing this for life balance. Well, now you can hang out with your family all the time because now you can't play on the PGA Tour, but you got your $100 million, and now the tour goes away.
Yeah. Didn't Dustin Johnson? He said, like, I did it to set up my family, right? He came out and said that. I think vaguely.
I mean, he just said, I did what was best for my family. I believe.
Okay, fine. Okay, that's code for I did it for the money. Yeah, just say that. Don't give me all the other bullshit. Just say we did it for. I'm gonna be a total dick and put you on the spot here, because a couple of hours ago, Chris Russo was on First Take. He was on Howard Stern today. And Stern, as always, prodded and got Russo to admit he's getting $10,000 an episode for First Take. And why Russo would say that, I have no idea, but he said it. And I mean, so I tweeted that, of course. And man, a lot of jealous people out there. A lot of people not happy that dogs. And it's like, okay, one, I don't think people understand TV is where the money is. Two, I mean, you know it because you're in TV, but I'm talking about the average fan. Two, like, you don't have to like Chris Russo. You don't even have to respect him. He's been on the air for 40 years. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, I want people to admit everything's about the money. Then when someone reveals a salary, people lose their mind and go crazy. So I get the yin and yang of it, I guess is what I would say.
Was there a question?
There's no question there. I just wanted to throw that out there. Unless you want to
you love Russo and Stephen A together.
I do.
Russo with his glasses on. Look at it. Hold on. I got to find my phone. I can't find my phone.
I do. Listen, I think you have to. I mean, first of all, listen, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up listening to Mike the Mad Dog. So that's where it all stems from. Of course. But there's two kinds of people in the world. There's the kind that actually care about what people are saying on TV, and there are the kinds who just want the entertainment value of it. I'm in the latter. So I could not possibly care less whether Stephen A. or Chris Russo thinks Steph Curry's a top 10 player. It's completely irrelevant in my life. I have my own opinion on it. But if Chris Russo is going to go on TV with broken glasses and can't work his phone, I'm going to laugh my ass off. So I'm going to choose to lean into that side of it.
New media doggy. How about
I don't even know. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what kind of media that is.
He's, you know what, in this business, if you have to be unique is really difficult. And I mean, his literal voice and his metaphorical voice are unique. And I think they found something there. It's different. I mean, he and Mike together, that's its own thing.
Right.
That'll forever be its own thing because it was a very specifically New York thing that resonated there and made sense to you all in a way that other people are like, what is this? Right. But his ability to maintain a relevance and have it translate in this forum, to me, that speaks to why the guy's a forever legend in media,
You did sports talk radio for many, many years. So that is kind of like debate-ish, but it's not like this First Take. But could you ever do a debate show like that?
No.
Yeah, me neither. I could never. I don't know. I'm impressed by people that can do it. I couldn't do it because I would never. At some point, I would just say, you know what, I don't care, and then that's not good TV.
Traina and Van Pelt. What do you think? I don't really give a shit. I can't pretend to be. I can't manufacture the energy for this today. And I'm a shades of gray guy because very, very rarely is something absolutely this or absolutely that. Mostly, it's a little bit of both. And people would probably get really sick of me going, it's not that bad, or it's fine. And
it would be a lot of shoulder shrugging, which would not be good television.
Right, a lot of and a lot of the shrug emoji, and that's probably not driving ratings. But I mean, I do. Like Russillo and I, and he hit the nail on the head. He's like, we just watch the games and we like to talk about the games. Like, are we the ones doing it wrong? Were we supposed to do it a different way? And we got that wrong. I would say no. I think it worked out okay for both of us, but and no matter what anyone says, and I'm not singling out any show or any host, but if by definition, if you're doing a show that requires people to disagree, then you have to find things on which you disagree.
Right.
Because if all you do is go, I think Steph Curry's awesome. You already said, me too. Well, you and me are doing a shitty debate show because we both really like Steph Curry and don't know why other people wouldn't.
Right. And if you said to me that you didn't like Steph Curry, my response would be, okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. I don't care. Like,
not one executive out there is thinking, jotting down, let's get Van Pelt and Traina to yell at each other on TV. And but there's an art form to it, to being able to, and that's why I would say about Stephen A. that there's no one works harder, and he's a born performer, an ability to wear many different hats, serious hats, theatrical. He can do that. He can really thrive in that particular space. Not everyone could, or they would try, I suppose. But for me, I get it. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I say this. It could happen. I joke about that. I'm like, the heel turn could happen. New media. Somebody puts 25 million on a pot, man. You're going to turn it on, and Van Pelt's berserk, flamethrower, and you're going to look at Van Pelt. He's sold out, and I'll be like, yep. And you know what? I did it for the money.
Right. Oh, I don't know what it is, but there is an amount out there that would make one of us say Steph Curry's not a great guy. Now, let me end with this, and I appreciate all the time. Like you just said, you and Russillo said you just want the games. I'm the same way mainly, especially with NFL college. Just give me the game. But I do like a lot of the nonsense that is fun. You had a great tweet 3 days ago. I'm going to read it, and I just want to finish on this note. Avalanche fans doing lots of singing. I always felt like we missed the boat on that at sporting events in the States. Lots of fans singing in unison is always goosebumps. In review, more singing. Okay, good talk. Phenomenal tweet. Agree with every word. In fact, it was funny when you brought up George Michael. I had in my head to read this. I already know I was going to read this tweet, and it was freaky that you brought up George Michael, because I tweeted recently, I didn't want it to come off as a get off my lawn and I'm an old guy tweet, but there's this clip on YouTube of a famous concert where it's a Freddie Mercury tribute concert. George Michael sings Somebody
to Love,
and Elton John and Axl Rose sing Bohemian Rhapsody. And when Axl comes out for that famous part, the crowd, to say they lose their mind would be an understatement. If there was a roof, to use the tired cliche, the roof would have come off the building. Right. And I said, it's a shame we'll never, ever get moments like this, because at concerts now, everyone's on their phones. And your tweet made me think of that. And what you said was dead on. Why is singing in unison? It's always just a phenomenal experience.
I don't know, but if you've ever been in an arena where it happens, it's like a goosebumps thing. And it's happening some, because it's Twitter, you know how that goes. Michigan fans sing Mr. Brightside. I know, I've heard it. I know that. Yeah. I'm just talking about sort of the spontaneous singing, which you see Premier League is where it feels most organic, where there can just be spontaneous singing where everyone knows what they're meant to sing. It's like I'm not Catholic, but it's like Catholic Mass where everyone knows the words to the things and they know when they're supposed to do them. I would always feel like I didn't know what to do, and I would go to, if I was with a friend and I was in church and there's a thing we were supposed to say, and I would be like, oh boy, I don't know the thing I'm supposed to do. And then I'm not a heretic. I just don't know. I don't know the lines of the song. I'm sorry. And I think any crowd singing, sing along, whatever, it's always fun. Great. Many years ago, Jimmy, when I was a kid in Cole Fieldhouse going to Maryland basketball games with my dad, Lefty Drizel was the coach. He's in the Hall of Fame now. And the Maryland thing was, when they won a big game, they sang, speaking of church, the Amen chorus. And 14,000 people at the end of a big game, and it's tense the whole game, and you're going to win. And everyone's singing the Amen chorus. It was the coolest thing in the world. And as a friend of mine suggested, thank God they stopped doing that before the game against Duke, because there's a minute left and we'd have been singing the Amen chorus, and they would have shut the chorus down and won the game. That would have been horrendous. But in general, I have found singing as a group every now and then when they'll do they'll play the first two notes of the anthem and then the crowd sings the anthem.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be patriotic to have that be really a moving thing. So
it can go. I'm just thinking about my experiences as a Yankee fan, and it can go two ways though, because I don't know if they still do this because I haven't been to a game probably in like 3 seasons because that's a whole other issue. But like,
what's the issue?
$40 to park and $18 for a bottle of water. Go fuck yourself. So the issue is the, in Yankee Stadium, they built a moat because they don't want the regular fans mixing in with the highfalutin fans. So the whole thing's a bad experience. But my issue with my point is, I don't know if they still do YMCA. That's a horrific sing-along experience, YMCA. Agreed. But New York, Frank Sinatra after win is great. I mean, I was at a Braves-Yankees World Series game. There was a walk-off home run. I forgot who hit it. I wish I remembered. And to have at the old Yankee Stadium with everyone singing Frank Sinatra, that's a phenomenal experience. But your point, more sing-alongs, and the word you hit is spontaneous, more spontaneous sing-alongs. We need them.
It was a long time ago, and so long ago that A, the Washington football team was good, B, the Washington football team was called the Redskins, and the sing-along was Hail to the Redskins. And much like New York, when you get to It's Up to You, New York, like that crescendo is unbeatable. Yeah. And when you'd get to the end of that song and it was Fight for Old DC, and when you'd be in RFK and they beat somebody big, I was at an NFC championship game. They beat the 49ers, and you like Fight for Old DC, that little 2-second, whatever it is, moment that's as good as being at a celebratory feeling, and 50 some odd thousand people singing together. Hard to top. YMCA though, probably we could pass on that one.
Absolutely. All right, Scott, great tweet, great idea. Let's get the sing-alongs going. Appreciate you coming on. Always a pleasure. Enjoy your summer and your time off, and sure we'll get you on during football season and college football and talk about some bad beats.
I look forward to it, and just please know, even if it's a pain in the ass to get me on, if I didn't think you were a mensch and if I didn't enjoy the conversation, I would just say no. I'm not lying when I say I got a thing. But today I didn't have today, no thing. You're my thing today.
Listen, you come on and you're excellent. That's the problem. So I'm always like, okay, I need a good conversation, light, fun, someone who's good. Let's get this. If you weren't good, I wouldn't ask. So that's there we go. Again, yin and yang of it.
All right, we're done playing. We're done. Right. We're done giving each other the hug from afar. You be good, Jimmy.
You too. Take care. All right, my thanks to Scott Van Pelt and Sal Licata for doing this week's episode of the SI Media Podcast. If you missed any recent episodes, we had Biz Nasty, Paul Bissonette on last week, Brian Curtis from The Ringer 2 weeks ago, Richard Deitch 3 weeks ago, Joe Davis from Fox Sports 4 weeks ago. All right here on the SI Media Podcast. Give them a listen, download, subscribe, and if you could leave a review on Apple, that helps tremendously. All right, that wraps it up for this week. Again, thanks to Scott Van Pelt. Great interview, great conversation, and Sal Licata. We'll see you next week right here on the SI Media Podcast. Stay safe and take care.